welcome to part two of my complete gym guide for beginners. This part, I'm going to talk about the diet. So let's go through the agenda here. I'm going to give you my thoughts on bulking and why you don't need to be in that much of a surplus to gain muscle. Then I'll talk about some popular diets. Then I'm going to talk about your macros and micronutrients. What are they? How do you hit them? All that stuff. What should they be? Talk about your carbs and protein more, then I'm going to get to the really important part, how to lose weight. And I'm gonna give you some tips at the end on how to stick to your diet, just stuff like that to help you with cutting. So, why is bulking unnecessary? Because simply put, calories don't cause growth. You're not going to gain, you can't force feed muscle growth. That's my point. You can't force feed muscle growth. So if you're around like this, 15%, even this, don't bulk. You don't need to get to these absurd degrees of body fat, all right? This graphic's kind of horrible because I don't know, this guy's fatter than this guy. So this should be swapped, but whatever. Back to what I was saying. You don't need to eat a lot. Honestly, anytime I'm in a bulk phase or a gaining phase, whatever, I eat like an extra 200 calories. You don't need to eat much more than that, okay? Because calories only help you to build muscle growth by supplying the energy you need. You can't force feed muscle growth. So don't like fatten up in the off season, basically. For women as well, women probably shouldn't bulk at all, period, unless you're like a bikini competitor or something. Next, what do I think about the keto diet, vegan diets, fasting diets, that sort of stuff? Um, well, first, keto diets, they're not great for muscle growth because you don't have carbs. And I know carbs are not essential. They're not, I'm assuming you're not literally eating a single ounce of them, right? But carbs aren't really necessary to life. But for max performance, they sort of are, right? Your muscles, you're going to need energy basically. You're going to need your keep your blood sugar levels stable throughout your workout. And um, in a keto diet where your body is converting other sources into glucose, it's just going to be much more inefficient for your body to do so, and you won't necessarily have a stable performance that you can get with carbohydrates. Honestly, if I was on a keto diet, I would still have like a pre-workout carb meal just because you want to keep your performance stable. But whatever. Next is gonna be fasting. If you're doing some sort of fasting, just don't do it before the gym. Um, it's going to worsen your performance. Like it just does. I don't think fasting can lose muscle growth, but if you train smart and diet smart, not really. Because like I'm talking about like intermittent fasting specifically. If you literally don't eat, you will lose muscle. Sorry, your body has to burn energy somehow. Uh, People kind of over exaggerate how much you atrophy, but you will atrophy. Okay, you are in a catabolic state. But if you're doing some sort of intermittent fasting, it could still be mitigated. Just don't fast right before your workout. Eat something. And then vegans. Vegan diets can work. Um, I don't really know all the challenges associated with them because I'm not a vegan, but I just know specifically for working out, you guys don't get enough protein. I know it says on your sunflower seeds you got like 50 grams of protein or whatever. Your body can't absorb that. It's called bioavailability. So how available is a nutrient actually, right? In plants, protein isn't very available. So you will need to supplement with some sort of like protein powder, which people normally do anyways. But I'm just telling you, be very careful. You should probably be eating more protein than is necessary because of just the bioavailability factor. You could also structure your meals differently, where you eat certain greens together with certain other things, because that boosts the bioavailability of all the nutrients in there. I'll throw up some examples on screen. Next, micronutrients. So, hit your micros. They're important. They're going to keep you healthy. They're all your vitamins and minerals, right? If you're what if you're training, I say, which you are, you're going to need to pay attention to these specific ones because these are the really important ones for training. And like for example, electrolytes, they get depleted when you sweat. Like I know me, I sometimes I wouldn't get enough electrolytes, and literally I was in the middle of the night and I woke up with a huge cramp in my hamstring. I thought I was gonna die. I swear to God, it felt like it was about to explode. So um, be careful with that stuff. Like make sure you're getting enough of these macronutrients. This is going to be your protein, your carbs. I know they're non-essential, but you still probably have them. Your protein, carbs, and your fats. Very essential. So let's go through the protein recommendation. 0 to 1 gram of protein for every pound you weigh. Okay, this is simple. I'll put the kg equivalent up on screen. Um, just whatever your weight is, multiply by 0.7 or 1 to get the amount of protein you need for your entire day. Okay, and try to hit that every day. If you're really obese or really overweight, um, this probably won't be good for you because you do not need like 300 grams of protein. Instead, what you should do is for every like centimeter of height you have, that's a gram of protein. I've heard that one thrown around a bit. Okay. Now, vegans, like I said before, aim for the higher range. I'd go close to 1 gram of protein for every pound I weigh because, or even beyond that, honestly, because just I know the vegan protein is a very high quality. For fats, this is going to be, these are essential. I don't know why people like the, I saw some guy say 0.3 grams per kilogram or per pound. I'm like, no, dude. Um, yeah, that's too low. But anyways, for fats, these should be around, the USDA like recommends around like 30 to 20% of your total calories should be from fats. I'd probably put that more because when you're training, you need like the fats are just important to you. But do the same thing that you did for the protein. Multiply whatever you weigh. I did in kgs here. Sorry, I use kilograms. I know, not American. Not everyone is. But yeah, 0.8 grams to 1.5 grams per kilogram um, for your fats. And if you're cutting, you can push these lower to 0.5 gram per kilogram. Um, the reason why you can push these lower, and you probably should, is because when you're cutting, you're going to need less calories, and fats are very calorically dense, right? So protein is going to be 4 calories per gram. Carbs are going to be, again, 4 calories per gram, but fats are 9 calories per gram. So they're more than double as calorically dense as the other two macronutrients, meaning that you could eat a lot less of these and still gain a significantly more amount of calories. The rest of your caloric intake should be carbs. So yeah, so once you filled out your fats and your proteins, the rest should be carbs, right? Because they're kind of becoming popular again, um, out of nowhere, kind of. Let's talk about them, carbs. So timing your carbs is going to be very important to your progression in the gym because you're going to be able to keep your blood sugars stable throughout your workout. And if your blood sugars drop, you will see a decrease in performance. You'll be more fatigued, you'll be more tired, and you just won't have a good enough workout. But some people take this to the extreme, okay? Um, Aim to eat 30 to 60 grams per workout 30 to 60 minutes before. My tips for these would be, okay, so first of all, there's two main things, okay? You want to be eating simple carbs so you can actually digest them, okay? The maximum amount of glucose your body can digest per hour is 60 grams, right? So basically 1 gram per minute. If you're using glucose and fructose, like regular table sugar is made of both glucose and fructose. Your body can absorb this a little faster, so at around 90 grams per hour. If you're eating 50-50 glucose and fructose, right? So when people say like, "Oh, have 100 grams of carbs for the gym," that's stupid. You're still going to be digesting it, or you're going to have to dial this back even before 30 to 60 minutes, right? You have to eat like an hour and 20 minutes in advance or something like that. I've seen people eat like 150 carbs pre-workout. And another thing is you don't need that many to just keep your blood sugar level up. You just don't, okay? So people are unnecessarily eating too many carbs. They're not going to change that much. They're just going to make sure your performance is okay. So that's pre-workout carbs. Intra-workout. What this means is during your workout. I think these are the least important, um, but they can help. So let's like, have some sugary drink, rinse it in your mouth if you're feeling tired and fatigued uh, as your workout progresses. The reason why I say least important is because um, they're just going to give you like one extra rep on your exercises. Though they can be helpful, they certainly can be helpful. They just don't do a lot for me personally. And also, you can't really have that many, so just like suck on a Jolly Rancher here or something like that. Post workout, I think most of your carbs, or at least a good majority of your carbs, like a good amount, should come here. Why is that? Is because you're very insulin sensitive post your workout. Your glycogen is depleted. Basically, your carbs get stored in your muscle as glycogen. That's very oversimplified, but whatever. Um, the majority of your carbs should be here because you're very insulin sensitive, so you won't have any insulin resistance. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. It'll help you recover. It'll like delay stress responses in your body, and also it'll help replenish your glycogen. Why do I say maybe not? They did a study on this and they found that damaged muscle fibers actually don't replenish glycogen. So post workout, they might not do that much. I still think you should have it, even if it doesn't replenish your glycogen, because it's those specific muscle fibers that are not taking in the glycogen. And also, there should be some like timing stuff where glycogen takes a lot of time to actually move into the muscle. So it could not even matter anyways. And also, with this, it's just going to be a good way to get your carbs in, right? You're hungry after the gym. Um, and again, it will delay certain responses your body has to the stresses of the workout. Insulin, I mentioned it before, but it's because I see a lot of people eating these like 500-gram carb diets, and I'm like, dude, you're doing so much, and they have a lot of like processed sugars, right? Hyperpalatable food. So insulin is actually, you need this for muscle growth. Like you need to be, the worst thing you can become is insulin resistant, meaning that when you have insulin, your body will kind of just ignore it. I mean, I could get really in depth with why insulin is important. But just know it's like almost like testosterone. Like you need this for muscle growth. It's such an oversimplification, but whatever. Um, so I'm honestly worried about getting some people probably will get insulin resistance because how many carbs they're eating. So to make sure you don't eat more complex carbs, meaning that these are going to have longer, basically like chains, and they're going to be harder to break down. So think about like oats, high fiber food, right? Stuff like that's going to be harder for your body to digest. It's going to take longer. It's going to help prevent those like big spikes in insulin. Here I have this like really nerdy stuff here where you could see how carbohydrates and saturated fat too, we'll get to this in a bit, can cause insulin resistance mainly through repeated hyperglycemia, blah 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 blah. No one wants to know. No one cares. Saturated fat. Yes, saturated fat can give you insulin resistance, but me personally, I eat like more carbs, more fats than is recommended, and I don't think this is a big issue because um, it's just not as impactful as carbohydrates. Another thing, fructose really uh, is like worse than just regular glucose in terms of turning you insulin resistant. Fructose is probably more harmful, so don't eat like a whole shit ton of fruit. Grains are probably going to be okay. I know all the carnivore people are going to be fucking mad at that one, but whatever, dude. You don't get your micros in. You're gonna get scurvy. So yeah, saturated fat can also promote insulin resistance, but it's going to be not as harmful as fructose and carbohydrates and highly processed foods. Um, so yeah, I'll take you through this first, finding your maintenance. So what is your maintenance? So everybody has a certain amount of calories they need to survive every day. That's going to be your maintenance. If you're not losing or gaining weight, you know you're eating at your maintenance, right? That's just what you need to survive. Nothing more, nothing less. Finding your maintenance is really important because it's going to give you everything we need for your diet for either gaining or losing weight. But we'll talk about cutting here. You could use an online calculator if you want. And when they say what's your level, whatever you think it is, go one lower. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people overestimate how active they really are. Unless you have like hard stats, like you have like an Apple Watch and you track your steps every day, then you should probably put out whatever you think it is. Here's my method doing it. Like if you are stable weight, right? If your weight hasn't moved pretty much at all in the past like 2 weeks, you're probably eating your maintenance calories. So start tracking your calories. That means like weighing all the food you eat. Just do that on a daily basis and do it for like three days and see your average calories. And that's probably going to be your maintenance. That's a good uh, picture of what your maintenance is. So now let's do an example of all the advice I gave you, like taken into a person. So we're gonna do some math here, so careful. So let's say Tommy, he has a maintenance of 2,500 calories at 150 pounds or 68 kilograms. So remember that protein recommendation I gave you of 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound? So let's multiply that by 1 gram of protein per pound. So 150 times 1 is going to equal 150 grams of protein. Um, 150 times 4 is going to be 600. So 150 grams of protein, for every gram of protein, that's going to be 4 calories. So we just multiply this whole number by 4 to get the amount of calories we're going to get from this protein, right? And then let's do our fats. Let's say Tommy wants 1 gram of fat per kilogram. This is what I would recommend. Like, for me personally, I don't go lower than this. So we take 68 and 68 grams of fat. So 68 times 9, because a gram of fat is 9 calories. Oh, I wrote it here on the bottom. Cool. So this times 9, we're going to get 612 calories. And then the rest of that should be carbs. So we deduct our fats and our protein calories from our total calories, and we get the amount of calories left with carbohydrates. So you take that, you divide it by 4, right? Because you want to get the grams. I don't know. I think you know math. So you get 322. This is the amount of grams of carbs you should be eating in a day. So we could summarize Tommy's macros as 51% carbs, 24% protein, 25% fats. If you do the math and you actually convert to percentages, this isn't right. It's like because there's like some like very small decimal places, but this is close enough, okay? Um, so yeah, you could also work backwards from this. So let's say you didn't have any of these recommendations, but you just had like, okay, I want 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fats. You could just take whatever your maintenance calories is, or whatever you want to eat at, and you just multiply by whatever, whatever percentage. So you could either work from here, which is what I prefer to do, or you could work back from like a goal macros perspective. So how do you actually cut? How do you reduce your weight? This kind of varies person to person, but I'll just give you a general plan that almost anyone can use. If you're kind of obese, maybe you're a little overweight, just take whatever your maintenance is and reduce by 500 calories. Okay, calories in, calories out is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. I know it's not as simple as that. And even though it's simple, it's kind of hard to do. I know, guys, but that's what it is. If you see your weight, absolutely hold still. By the way, don't worry about like weight fluctuations. Look for a general trend. If you see your weight, it'll bounce around a little bit, right? But if you see it's generally going down, you're making progress, dude. So aim to lose 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. Let's say you weigh 200 pounds, so that should be 2 pounds or 1 pound a week, right? Um, Look, 500 calories is going to be a little bit steep if you're very skinny, okay? If you're already pretty lean, you're around 15% body fat for a dude or like 20% for a female, don't drop your intake by 500, okay? That's going to be very hard for you. Just because you're not eating a lot of food in general right now. So dropping even more is just going to make it very hard to get your like needed amount of food, right? Like your nutrients and your macros. So instead, what you do is you drop it by 200 or 300 calories instead, and you'll do this next thing that we'll talk about. Cardio. I know people hate it, but this could be very simple. So since we're let's say you're skinny at this point, you're skinnier, sorry. Uh, Reducing calories, there's a limit to how low you could go, right? So you'll struggle to get your daily macros and nutrients. So what you'll do is you'll increase your metabolic expenditure. So how many calories you burn in a day. Um, so you don't have to reduce your caloric intake as much. You can pick any activity, but I think walking is going to be the best. Very low impact. Anyone can walk. It's helpful for the environment. Blah 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 blah. Aim for around 10 to 20,000 steps. That will burn around 300 to 600 calories um, for like 10,000 steps, and for 20,000, that's going to be like 600 to 1,000 calories. Probably closer to 600 to 800 calories. So Uh, the reason why I don't recommend going much higher than this is going higher than this will include like reduce your NEAT and BMR. Um, this is like non-exercise activity thermogenesis and basal metabolic rate. So basically your blah 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 blah, right? These are just gonna be the processes like this is blinking and all this non-exercise activity that you do. So like moving your hands, talking, whatever. This all burn calories, and this is just going to be like your metabolism and you just existing. So if you go higher than like 25,000, I would say, or like sorry, not 25,000, it's higher than like 20,000 really, um, you're going to reduce your NEAT and BMR, and that's just gonna make so that your body burns less calories naturally. Obviously, there's a limit to this. If you keep going higher and higher in steps, you can't always reduce your NEAT and basal metabolic rate, so you will lose more. But it's just kind of unrealistic to aim for that high amount of exercise, right? Um, I don't think most people will be able to do it unless you're like a bodybuilder or you're like dedicated to this. So don't go higher than this number, I'd say. Now, here are some tips for weight loss and like staying on your diet. So, you might have heard of this before, but eat satiating foods. What's that mean? Don't eat Pop-Tarts. Eat actual filling meals, right? Um, Here's a satiety index. So as you can see, white bread is our reference, and like potatoes. You eat one couple potatoes, you're full, dude. Okay? You eat a bunch of croissants. Hell no. You want more, dude. Right? These are barely going to fill you up. If sometimes they make you more hungry. So in general, eating food with more protein is going to be much more satiating. Another thing, uh, this is a specific one that vegans pay attention to this. So proteins are made of like there's like amino acids in proteins, right? That's what they are. And there's a specific one called lysine. And it seems to be that lysine is very important in reducing hunger signaling and stuff like that. So you can, this isn't like a hard recommendation, but if you find yourself struggling, maybe try supplementing with lysine because that's been shown to reduce hunger signaling or just, eat more protein in general. Protein has been shown, high protein diets have been shown to just lose weight naturally because people are less hungry. So, yeah. So, yes, calories in, calories out is all that matters, but this is just going to help by removing the willpower and discipline you need for your diet. The next thing you could do, and this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but increase the time it takes you to eat a meal. And the reason why is because it's going to give more time for that hunger signaling to reach your brain. If you just stuff your food, your brain doesn't really realize that you're full, right? So you could just, I don't know, chew slower, talk with people during meals, like really just watch a video and not really focus on your food. Um, Maybe use like a smaller fork. I've heard that one been said. People just say like, yeah, I just use smaller utensils, so you can't eat as fast. But yeah, just increase the time it takes you to eat. The next thing you can do, influence your food environment, right? This is gonna be hard if you're like a teenager or you live with like other people, making it so you don't control all the foods around you. But if you can, um, don't have a lot of snacks around the house or your apartment, whatever, right? Try to have a good food environment because that's just gonna lead you to success. Another thing is don't just like, oh, I want to eat 2,500 calories a day and just try to like bullshit your way through the day with just like random stuff and trying to get to your goals. I would actually just plan it out, and the way I would do it is here's what I do. I at least say AI. Here's my maintenance. Here are my macros. Uh, Give me a day of eating. It'll give you a day of eating, right? It's pretty good. And you say, oh, I don't like this food, and it'll change it up and it'll pretty much always fit your macros and it'll pretty much always have enough foods to hit your macros as well. And you can just track with like MyFitnessPal or some other macro tracking app, right? And I'm telling you, it's super easy. And then you literally just look at like your eating days. Maybe you can generate more than one. I literally just have like, I eat the same things every day. I don't know. I'm kind of weird like that. But if you get tired of foods, ask the AI to generate multiple different types of days. And then you literally go through and you're like, oh, okay, what am I eating? Oh, I'm eating this today. And you go to the grocery store, you have that specific list of foods that you like eating and that you're going to eat, and you just eat that. It's going to make things so much easier for you, I promise. And this next part, as you get leaner, it's going to get easier, okay? The skinnier you get, the healthier you eat, it's going to become easier to maintain that weight, okay? I promise. I've seen so many people, yes, people bounce back and from diets and stuff like that, but that's because they don't stick with it long enough or they just crash dieted, right? And they tried losing weight too quickly. And that's it. That's all I have to say.